Stand by. Da, 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 da. There you are. What's up, Richie? How are you, partner?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, we got audio and video. I'm producing the show today myself, and Brooke is here. Say hello to Brooke.
Hey, Brooke.
Hey, good morning.
And I don't know if you've been listening, but she's going to definitely hit you up for money for CFY. So just be prepared, which I know is something you would love to help out with the youth sports here in this area. So first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time. What is the latest on the Trop? Everybody wants to know. How much more money are we pouring into it today? What's going on?
Mean, sure. I like to talk about other sports too, FYI.
Yes.
But
good. All right, we'll do that.
I'm teasing. Yeah. The latest on the Trop. I think one thing I'll say is it's a hotly covered topic. So whenever any like minuscule change happens, there's an article in every newspaper and TV station. So, but having said that, I don't think much has changed recently. We're still on track to get it rebuilt for the 2026 season. And it's still like sort of within the realm of what price we thought it would be, I think. And so, and we're still hoping for FEMA and insurance reimbursements to cover most of the cost. I am skeptical, been skeptical this whole time that we'll be successful in getting it open and actually recouping money from FEMA. But, the city staff is like still really optimistic. And so they're doing their thing. And, I think one point I tried to make the last time we voted on this was that, if we wanted to negotiate our way out of the agreement with the raise, we had to do it before we started pouring money into it. And now people are upset because the cost has escalated a little bit. And like having second thoughts, but like we've already poured a bunch of money into it. Like, why would they negotiate an exit with us at this point? So, I think the saying is, my feet are taped to the pedals on this one. That's pretty much how the situation the city's in right now.
Well, explain to some people because they don't know. And Brooke was asking me this question as well: is why are you guys repairing the Trop? If the Rays are going to move to Tampa, a lot of people don't know the reason why. So tell them a little bit about the process, because I know you wanted to vote against it, but you're contractually obligated, right?
Yeah. So I'll give you just a little bit of background. We were about to sign this like 30-year funding agreement for a new stadium with them. And, I had issues with it, brought them up in the meeting. But what happened was 30 years ago, we did sign an agreement with them, and the agreement had some stuff in there that wasn't ideal for the city in this situation. And so when we signed it, we said, we're going to provide you an MLB quality stadium, which I know some people would argue about the Trop's quality, but it's a different thing. We're going to provide you an MLB quality stadium for the next 30 years. And in return, you're going to play 30 years of baseball games in St. Petersburg. We were 27 years through that agreement when the roof blew off. And so we were legally obligated to provide them with an MLB quality stadium. And so, the thing, I think that there may have been an opportunity for an out before we started putting money in it. If we went to the Rays and said, hey, like, it's silly for us to rebuild the stadium, which they agreed with at first.
Right.
And so let's negotiate a way to mutually part ways. But, the administration wasn't keen on that. And the Rays, I think they did start to go back and forth on numbers, and they were really far apart. So they just said, we're going to rebuild the stadium. That's what they brought before us. That's what they managed to get 6 votes to do when 7 votes, when all my colleagues except myself voted to put the roof back on. And so, we have to provide them 3 years of MLB.
What was the settlement number? What did the Rays want?
So I can't say for sure, but it was in the paper a couple of weeks ago. I know that they started the negotiations around $40 million. I think the administration was interested in that number. The Rays mentioned it to me as well. I wouldn't normally go out and say this, but it's old conversation now that can't happen. But I think that was where they were starting. But I think the Rays obviously wanted more. And that was the issue. And, from our perspective, we're getting insurance and FEMA money to rebuild the stadium. We don't get insurance and FEMA money to pay you to go away. Like, we get some insurance money, but that's why it had to make financial sense for us. But my main contention when I didn't support putting the roof back on was not like, oh, I'm here to shirk our responsibility or anything. It was, I need the mayor's administration and the Rays to come to me and say, this is how much money it would cost to get out of this agreement. This is how much money it would cost to put this roof back on. They did not do that. They didn't want a number conversation. So I'm not going to support you just like, oh, because you think it's fiscally responsible. I've had a lot of fiscal disagreements with the administration. Like, I can't just take your word for it. So yeah, that's sort of where we're at. But like I said, once we voted to put the roof back on, we taped our feet to the pedals and pointed firmly downhill, and there's nothing we can do now.
And part of the problem is, so the Rays and, frankly, the fans will want an identical stadium or something that was close to what we had. And there were a lot of cool things in there that they had built, the decks in right field and left field and, more concession stands and all these things. But that's not something you guys are required to provide. So you're basically going to, we'll fix it. We'll give you a roof and we'll give you the basic stuff, but we're not doing any of those fun accoutrement. That's going to be on you, the ownership group or the new ownership group, as it might be.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think that a fish tank is required in our agreement with the Rays. Like, and another big topic of conversation is like their offices. Like, we don't have to build those.
No, you don't have to have to repair Stu's office.
I just pictured like the fish tank and Finding Nemo when he said that. Like, randomly, do we really have to have the Rays tank in there?
Where are the Rays going to go? Where will they swim?
I saw them at the aquarium the other day.
What's that?
I saw them at the aquarium the other day.
They're fine? Okay,
yes,
good. Oh, breathing easier now.
They probably can't go back out into like their natural environment, but they can swim around at like the Florida aquarium, or maybe they went over to CMA or something. So I think they'll be okay.
Good.
Yeah,
I was worried about that. I was worried. So as far as it's all the roof tiles are coming. It's going to be back on, and you think they'll be back in there for 3 years?
Well, they have to be. So it has to be 3 years. They have to play 3 years. We have to provide the stadium. Like, they've got to play all 30, and we've got to provide the stadium for all 30. So there's no getting out of it, really. I mean, obviously, I can't tell you that everybody's going to honor every legal agreement, but be very difficult for them to leave. Yeah, it's going to be 3 years of baseball. And I honestly, at this point, I'm optimistic that we do get it done for 2026. Although I've been telling the city engineering staff, like, wow, it's really impressive that you've gotten this job done on schedule. I'm going to be holding you to that for every other public works job you ever do. But
because construction goes well always, right?
Yeah. And on budget. It's always on budget and on time, especially city work. Yeah.
Reading, they say that the turf would be the last thing that would go into the field, and they're saying February.
Yeah, well, that's optimistic.
Yes.
It's optimistic, to say the least.
The good thing about
like 60 days onto that.
Yeah.
How much money does the city of St. Pete get from the Rays? If they're going to play there for 3 years, say it's $60 million. What kind of return on investment? I know the answer. I know the answer, but I want you to tell the people, what kind of return on investment do you get? Lots of concession money and parking money and all that, right?
They do pay us. They do pay us money for, I believe, parking and ticket revenue. It is completely dwarfed by the amount of money we expend on like insurance for Tropicana Field. Insurance alone, period. And then the other things associated with it, security and whatnot. We lose money every year. There might even still be some debt service on the building of it or something like. So yeah, we're losing a good chunk of money subsidizing it every year. And that's why the new agreement would have been structured differently to avoid some of that. And I think that's part of the reason they pulled out, is because they were responsible for insurance. They were responsible for basically everything. We were like, here's a big chunk of money. Don't ever ask us for it again. And that was like something I could compliment the city administration on, even though I didn't agree with the massive chunk of money. They at least had the sense to be like, we've been losing money on this stadium for the last 30 years. Let's just try to lose it all up front and not do that again next time.
Lose it all up. Well, the bottom line is, you will get. I think there's going to be a stadium built in Tampa, so I don't think it's going to come to St. Pete. If there's people still thinking that the stadium's going to be in St. Pete, what would you tell them? Is there any hope left for that?
Look, I mean, when we were having conversations about building a stadium, they kept like bringing up a lot of these new stadiums like in California and how they were all privately funded. Look, new ownership group, you want to privately fund the overwhelming majority of the stadium? Like, I'll help you like plan it out. Like, but we've got a lot of issues in St. Pete that, and I think that we have new council members, we have new county commissioners. It's going to be difficult for us to get a deal for them to get a deal like they did before. And especially because a lot of people are sick of this and I think have been for a long time.
Yes.
But I will also say, like, I don't know how Tampa is going to afford it at this point with like the upgrades that they need to do to their current stadium. They've got their own infrastructure issues. I'm struggling to imagine what exactly the outcome of this is all going to be. But like I can say getting to an agreement like we did in St. Pete before is an even taller lift than it was a year or two ago.
Yeah, I would think so, especially with the makeup of the council now.
Richie, with the uncertainty, and like you said, you've got 3 years. They have to play there for 3 years. You're going to fix it. If they're not going to be in St. Pete, if there is no St. Pete deal, is the conversation to still look at that site as like a convention center in the future?
Yes. So I think that's just a study right now that the mayor's office put out. It's just to decide if that was a good idea or not. I mean, I could get into the politics of it and tell you what my opinion is, but I think for now, I'll just leave it at like, that's just one of the possibilities that could go on right there. And I think there's talk of like trying to use Tropicana Field for something else. I don't know that that's going to happen because I think people are tired of maintaining it. But I think you're going to see something new happen at that site as soon as we possibly can, I think.
Well, I think the important part is, and I was, talking about Ferg Sports Bar, and there's a number of different businesses that are there. And at the end of the day, they're struggling because of this. Mm-hmm. And so the city needs to support those businesses and like the outcome of what's going to be there when they're not. I mean, I think a lot of businesses are happy that they're going to at least come back for 3 years, but then what does their future look like?
Better.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah.
When you're not giving $2.4 billion to the baseball team, there's a lot you can do with that area. Mm-hmm. So what would you like to see there, Richie?
So I've been advocating for, basically using the land that we have for like 3 separate purposes. One is private market, whatever the private market wants to do there for about a third of it. I have I guess I'll say progressive politics where I like when the government takes things on, but I recognize we cannot do that for a massive piece of land. And then for another third of it, we can decide things that we need in our city. We need office space. We need hotels. We want more apartments downtown that are reasonably priced. And we can sell about a third of the land for that usage as well. That won't quite be market rate, but we'll recoup some money. Then we still have, so then once we've sold off a big chunk of it, I think we can develop for public use the other third of it, which would be parks,
a youth athletic complex.
Yeah. Well,
there you go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they just did a news break back a couple months ago. I pulled it up where Shaquille O'Neal breaks ground on the Las Vegas Youth Sports Complex.
Yeah.
Right. Huge indoor facility, all generated around youth athletics. The Raiders are behind it. They're going to build an MMA gym in there. UFC is promoting it.
Well, that sounds good.
Right.
Yeah, the county's studying doing that at Toy Town in North St. Pete, Gateway area. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I think that's a good usage of that land.
Well, and the hardest thing I'll tell you, Richie, my kids are, involved and they're playing their first season and they're practicing right now from 6 to 8 o'clock. And my boys are 8 and 10 and I'm like the concerned mom, like, okay, getting in bed and dinner and 9 and back up to school. And I understand in the youth sports life, the teams, the coaches are volunteers, they're coming from their jobs, but then a lot of times that's the only time that these programs can get field time.
Field time
for the teams
more
to play.
Fields, the better.
I think I like that idea of opportunities or more fields, because the
bottom line is you got such a great opportunity in that area to make money for the city, not cost the city money, as the new stadium would have done. And I think that's great. And I think you'll finally have some type of resolution, which is, I think, what everybody's wanted for a long time, right?
For sure.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And, I think, like you mentioned, without spending money on a stadium, we're going to be able to invest in like the things that really bring people to St. Pete, that define St. Pete, our arts, our culture. And it'll be a lot of fun in the end if we can coalesce around that idea.
Well, I have a question from one of our listeners and watchers. Richie P wants to know, and thank you for the super chat, $50 super chat. So you're making me money today, Richie. I like your economic plan. It's very good. It's
is that a donation to CFY?
I think it is a donation to CFY. That's exactly what that is.
Wait, didn't you say there were comments in there, instead of sending $60 million to fix the Trop, donate it to CFY?
Which I think Richie would be for. I don't want to speak for you, but right?
We'd rather put a terrible idea.
Yeah, right. He wants to know your opinion on rail between downtown St. Pete and the beaches.
I mean, like if anything we can do to connect our metro region more efficiently, you can only put so many cars over a couple of bridges at a time. Right. The problem with a car is, 1, 2, 3, 4 people are in there, and they're taking up like 10 times as much space as they would take in a light rail system. Now, there's a lot of headaches to overcome to get to that. We have to have the land to put it on. We have to have the financing, the political will. But I think anyone who's interested in actually moving people around efficiently in the area is going to have to look into it and make sure we can do it in a fiscally responsible way.
So do you think that's imminent at all in the next 5 years you can do some light rail to the beaches?
5 years is a tight timeline, but what I'll say is I'm on what's called Ford Pinellas, the municipal planning organization for Pinellas County, and we're in discussions and studying merging it with Pasco and Hillsborough. And I'm tentatively supportive because we do planning for the whole county. We do transportation planning, and each county right now is doing their own transportation planning.
That's so silly.
It just cuts off at the border. There's a lot of people who are upset about merging it because they're worried about local control. I am enthusiastic about it because I believe I'm a regionalist in this sense. Our economies are tied together. Our transportation is tied together. I need Tampa to do well. I need Pasco to do well so that St. Pete can do well. I've always believed that. And so if we can join together, we will have a much better chance. And that could happen in the next 5 years. And then we could be talking about 5 years after that, what our plans are to actually connect the region.
Yeah, we've needed a regional solution for light rail for so long. And I just don't understand politically why we can't get that done. I mean, there's regions all over the United States that do this, multi-county regions that figure this out, right?
Yeah. I think, in 2014, we had one plan called Greenlight Pinellas that would have slightly raised property taxes to try to pay for some of this stuff. And it was voted down. I think it was a bad campaign and a bad time to do it. But, the concern is always going to be people not wanting to pay more in taxes. But I'll just tell people, if you're listening, you don't like paying your taxes because life is hard and expensive. I get it. But, sometimes if a government is responsible, we can use a little bit of tax dollars to make your life a little better. And
we just don't trust you guys because you always waste the money.
I get it completely. I am
nothing
angry
personal
all the time.
I know you're on the same wavelength. I know that, Richie. So, and by the way, you got a visit from the Doge Florida people the other day, huh?
Yeah.
What's going to happen with that?
So no one knows right now. It could be anything from them forcing us to do things through legislation or executive action to it just being a political show. We don't know what the outcome is right now. Even conservatives who welcomed Doge, Pinellas County, have already been taking issue with them because we saw Doge at the federal level, say they were doing cost saving measures and cutting a bunch of things that people really didn't want cut, like cancer research and and ending up spending, the federal government ended up spending more money after it was all said and done. And so I think, I can't tell you what the outcome is, but I know even people who are politically aligned with them are taking some issue with things they're doing. You've seen the news out of the county. They're arguing. So it remains to be seen. I
just like to see, at least I want to see where the money was wasted. I don't know if it makes me feel better, or just you hopefully think that this won't happen again, but who knows? Well,
the thing is that whose definition of waste is it?
That's true.
I would define spending a ton of money on a baseball stadium not the most efficient use of our funds.
I would agree with you.
Me too.
I would agree with you.
But
Youth athletics complex.
Yeah.
Well, Richie, listen, thanks for taking the time. We really appreciate it, and appreciate all the work you're doing, and the fact that you come on here and tell us a lot of things that are happening. It really helps us out, helps people understand what's going on. So listen, we all look forward to another 3 years, I think, in some way in the Trop. There's a lot of people that have nostalgia about it, but as long as there's a long-term solution and everybody knows what's happening and you guys can plan, that's what's best for St. Pete. And I think the fact that baseball is not going to be there, I think is way better than having a baseball stadium there and wasting all that money on it. So I think in the end, it's going to work out better for St. Pete. Oh, one last question. That big parking lot out in front, is that, did I read it right? The city's going to take that and start developing on that during this 3 years or not?
So, it's a little more complicated. There's like chunks of it that are controlled differently. And our intent was to develop on a chunk of it ahead of time, and we still could possibly do that, but it's like we have like a short-term lease basically with them now, where we're still recouping some funds from it, but we could end it at any time. So I can't tell you for sure what's going to happen, but that is a possibility.
Oh, interesting. All right, we'll have to park on the other side. All right, Richie, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Be well.
Thank you so much for having me, and good luck with CFY, and I'll send a little donation later on. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Richie.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, and we'll be voting for you, by the way. Everybody in St. Pete, please do that. A great guy, Richie Floyd, right there, St. Pete City Council.
I like the realism in what he has
to say.